Hi, Lori Morse from Five Element Creative Healing. So, this is our third month in a 12-month journey together. The last couple of months, you can go back if you haven't been able to get to those videos yet, but you don't have to. You can start here as well. Just as a reminder, our first month in the journey was about how to understand the part of ourselves that's very critical of almost everything we do, let alone our creative part. And then the second part, the second month, was about releasing old energy. And I just want to remind you, I was telling you the recap of that because it's really important to remember that this is a muscle that we build. It takes a lifetime to release that which is no longer serving for us, and that in order to make room for the truth, our true nature, right? Now, it doesn't mean it'll always feel as heavy as it does now. It's like tipping scales, kind of like, pretty soon they tip in our favor, and how long that takes is individual to each soul and what their particular journey is in any given lifetime, right? So, but pretty soon the scales tip and it becomes more light. We become lighter in terms of the baggage that we carry. And when I talk about baggage or old energy or dense energy, which I did talk about in the second month's video in this journey, I'm talking about old stories, old beliefs, old programmings. I mean, we're programmed from our culture, we're programmed from children, we're programmed in our DNA. So the bottom line is that we're just looking to begin the process of letting go of what doesn't serve us, and in order to make room for our soul, for our heart, and for our spirit to be expressed through us. And we're doing that through creative healing process because it's the most fun way that I know of in my 30 plus years of healing and transformation. So that is the point of our creative healing journey together. So in the last month, we talked about the things like our emotions, our things that are painful to us that we would like to be able to let go of. Now we're going to move into a place. The title of this video and our time together is about rising up from the place of not enough. And what I mean by that is that it requires our rising up requires some compost. And lo and behold, lucky for all of us, our compost is our old crap. It's the stuff that is no longer serving us. And so, as any good gardener knows, compost is, over time with the process of air and time and turning, what comes out of compost is black gold, and that is a rich, nourished dirt, basically, that any farmer can grow healthy, nourished foods from. So it's the same with us. And we're going to be using the lotus flower in this particular creative healing process because the lotus flower is a perfect example of growing out of mud. The lotus grows out of dark, dank mud that it's mired in, and it's the light from above and the compost from below that actually allows it to blossom upward into the beautiful flower that I consider a lotus to be. And that's actually one of the spiritual meanings of a lotus flower, is that it represents our capacity as human beings to rise up, to blossom forth, to evolve through almost any circumstance if we put ourselves, if we put an intention to our circumstance to be able to do that. So what we're going to do today, I want to make, oh, you can't see this. I'm going to have to lift this up. I couldn't get my easel tray to lift up, so I'm going to have to. And I have to be honest with you, I have a overhead camera set up that my sister gifted me, and I haven't figured out how to use it yet. So I keep using the regular old the webcam. I'm holding my paintbrush because I often do this, because to me a paintbrush is a prayer stick. It's also a magic wand. Energy can move through any implement and cause transformation on any page. It can be a wood panel, it could be a canvas, it could be a journal page, it could be a piece of printer paper for that matter. So, but what we're going to do today, I just want to show you how simple a creative process could be. The last 2 months we used paint, even though I did say you could do it with, with a piece of paper and a pencil. I have a little package of Sharpie pens here. It's just like I don't know how many are in here, for 12 pack, and they're just fun colors. I'm going to pick 3 colors actually. I'll pick, actually, I'm going to pick purple as one, and I'm going to pick teal. I often pick these colors actually, so it may be no surprise. What I've said before in the past couple videos is that it's a fun. This is a way to build your muscle about using your internal guidance. So we always have a spirit force, a life force, a creative healing force, a heart force, a divine love force, whatever words you want to put to that. We have that living inside of us. And when we allow it to participate in the choices that we have to make throughout the day, then those choices end up usually being better than the ones we make just with our mind alone. So I've chosen the three colors: purple, teal, and orange. And I'll tell you why now. So if you want to get out a piece of paper and some pens, and it's okay if you just do this, like I said, with a piece of scratch paper and even just like a pencil and a pen and maybe a highlighter. Those could be your three colors if you want. So here's what I'm going to have us do. Blank piece of paper here. This is a journal page. It's a mixed media journal page. I've referenced that in the previous videos. And I'm going to have you write on the bottom here. This is going to be the earth line, right? So this is above here is the air and like as if a sprout was going to come up here. And this is all the dirt. And I'm going to have you make a line on the page wherever it feels comfortable. Maybe it's a third of the way up. Maybe it's halfway. Doesn't matter really. Just leave enough room because there's going to be a cool lotus flower right here. And on the bottom, I would have you either write out all the things that are feeling stuck in you. So it might be that you don't feel like you have enough friends. You don't have to write the whole thing because you want to leave enough room for everything, but one word or two words that represent that thing. The common ones for almost everyone are health issues. And you can pick specifically what your health issues is. Maybe you'd like to sleep deeper. Maybe your immune system is needing a little bit, more extra strength. Maybe you have a pain in your hip. You could just write hip pain. Write anything that is getting your attention that you are really looking to have be transformed. So health is one thing. Then the next piece is either our sense of empowerment and or our sense of expression. So you might be able to say you might be wanting to work on your self-worth. So let's just put worth in here. Kind of a funny W. Maybe there are some aspects of your past that you are finding hard to accept, like you can't believe you made those particular choices, knowing what you know now. So you might want to say the word acceptance. Now, some people would call that forgiveness. I think acceptance is a nice first step before we have a conversation about forgiveness, because acceptance really is the willingness to see the things that we've done, or another person for that matter, and access a part of ourselves, this part will always come from our heart, that can understand why we made that choice. So for example, most of us have a conversation in our head, or many times we've had this conversation out loud, where how could our parents have done X, Y, or Z? Well, now looking back in hindsight, we could say, well, they were doing the best they can under those circumstances. And that may or may not be true for you. Maybe that, you're not there yet, but that's an example of acceptance. Or maybe you did way too many drugs when you were in college and you can't, now you're sort of paying for it in some way or another, and it's hard for you to accept that. There's always another side of the coin, and this is what we talked about last step. Is there's a dual nature to being on planet Earth, and there's always two energies that are seemingly opposite, but they're counterbalancing and or seemingly in polar opposites. But it's the energetic sum, which is greater than its parts, like 1 + 1 = 2, but then there's this whole idea that really 2 is more than the 1, or more than the 2 ones. So I could get off on a quantum physics tangent on that, but I won't. So what we're looking for is for example, I was talking to a woman this morning, and she was not liking a couple of the decisions that she made earlier in her life. They actually weren't her choice. They were sort of forced upon her by circumstances, and she feels regretful. But we had a short conversation about how the opposite, what she ended up having to the choice she had to make because she couldn't make her original choice, ended up turning out really beautifully. So honoring the fact that we had that choice to make, honoring the fact that we ended up doing whatever it is we ended up doing, those are versions of acceptance. And most of us don't take the time to just look back and say, yeah, that's cool. It's not, I mean, I wish maybe it could have gone another way, but the fact that it went this way gave me this. And the fact that it gave me this is worth honoring. So anyway, I could go on about all that, but just you're going to write. So health, empowerment, and abundance is another one. So in whatever way, maybe it's a home, maybe it's money, maybe it's the way you are expressing yourself in your work life that you'd like to have shift. Maybe you want to go from being, an employee to a business owner. So, all that kind of stuff you can put in here. And then the last category that all human beings have our best growth opportunities for is the love category. And it doesn't just mean a romantic love. It could mean a self-love. It could mean love with an expanding group of friends. It could be attracting your right partner. It could be it could be making better the love partnership, the exchange of love that you currently have. So those are all the possibilities, and there are so many more. What my point is that I would like for you to write what your stuff, the places that you feel stuck in. And it might, you might want to do this for a couple of days, just write in a journal and just sort of be in this open inquiry with yourself. Like, what is it I would like to compost? What is in me that kind of comes up a lot, that I would like to offer to the compost pile in order that something else may grow from that, right? So that's what that's going to be. And now, if you want, you can paint over this, right? I'm not going to do that in our time together because the last two times I painted, but I've done this process so many times. And sometimes I'll just take some color that represents earth to me and just paint over. And I know what's underneath that, right? Like I know this is my compost pile. And then what you want to do is you want to take another color. I'm going to take orange, and you intend, this is by your intention, that there is a sprout that's coming up, poking up out of the ground here. I sure hope you can see this. And it's rising up as a bud, and will eventually become a blossom, a lotus blossom. Now let me show you an easy way to make a lotus. You start at the tip here. You kind of make a fun little curve like that, and then you just do the same thing on the other side. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect. I mean, seriously. So this would be the center. We're just going to do a 3-petal lotus blossom. I mean, there could be so many more petals, but you don't have to do it that way. And then you just kind of go like this. That's going to be that side. And then you go like this, and that's going to be that side. You can do it in pencil if you want, so that you can make sure that, the lines look or feel right to you. And that's it. That's your lotus blossom right there. And here's the thing. This is an image to the mind that from all of this compost, you are rising up and you are becoming more than you currently are. Because most all of us, women in particular, are operating inside of a cultural programming that who we are is not enough. That there's not enough time, there's not enough money, there's not enough ease compared to tension or stress. There's not enough love. There's not enough resources. There's not enough of all the things that make a life good. And that is actually an untrue programming when we uncover the fact that it's a programming, and when we connect with our own center and we allow our heart, spirit, soul, divine love force to guide us, then we actually end up blossoming ourselves into a human being that realizes that that story about not enough is untrue, right? So we're going to be talking about that for about a month, and I hope you're opening your emails. If you're not signed up to get the emails that are in conjunction with each of these classes, each of these monthly classes here on YouTube, then you really want to make sure you're on you get on the list for that, because there's journal prompts in there, and I kind of take it a little bit deeper. It's hard to go through all this stuff in just one little, half-hour blurb on YouTube, right? Then the next thing that we'll have you do is you'll take your third color, and you know what? You can decorate all this in any way you want. And I will have you write words in your leaves, in your blossoms. And it's okay if you go on the outside too. I mean, the outside is the cosmic life force. So truthfully, it's all good. But just for the sake of it being kind of neat and tidy, you'll want to write words that are really important to you that represent the opposite. So the words that you're going to put in here will represent that which you are growing toward. So it might be love, it might be community. Like if friendship was, having more friends of like mind is something that you're looking for. I'm saying these things because not only have they been mine over the years in various times, but they're also very common. So in the communities that I serve and am in, these are themes that come up over and over. So you might write community in here. You might write ideal income. I mean, there's so many. You could even write the sign, the dollar sign, because that's an image that our mind recognizes. And if you have a charge about any of these, then that's okay. They will be tended as you continue on this journey, but they will also be able to have the opportunity to shift as you look at this page over time, right? So you'll remember, oh yes, this is the energy that is transforming. And it, a compost pile does not turn into the good dirt, the black gold, in an hour. It takes weeks, right? It takes a few weeks. So it's one of the reasons I love that analogy so much, the compost pile analogy, is because it's exactly the way it works with energy. It's a perfect representation of our own transformational experience, right? And interestingly enough, a compost pile does really well when we have 30 parts old to 1 part new being the kitchen scraps. So it requires all the old, dead, drying leaves to 1 part fresh kitchen scrap to make a most ideal compost. And then we turn it and we allow the sun and we allow water to do its magic. Hopefully there'll be some worms in there, even more magic when there's worms. But if that makes sense to you, whether or not you're a gardener, it's the same idea when we're dealing with our own personal transmutation, transformation, alchemy, right? So this is just a beautiful image that represents alchemy in our own life as a human being. And we are this lotus blossom, by the way. So, you could even take another color. Let me get a red here. And we could make a heart. All right, like this is your heart. You're rooted on Mother Earth. This is your heart, and this is this is what your heart is feeding. This expression of a blossom that is you. So that is the scoop for this month's journey. I highly recommend that you set an intention before you do this, that you are as clear as your system will allow you to be. Remember from last month, trusting that anything that is presenting itself in your conscious awareness, it means it's ready to be released, right? So one of the other muscle building practices is to not be frightened of it, and which when we get frightened of those kinds of things, we tend to run away, sweep it under the carpet, shove it back in the closet. And I'm asking you to consider maybe not your most, your big bad wolves, but some of the baby wolves. You can just play with one of them and see how that actually works in your system, because it's different for each and every one of us. So make sure that you open up your emails so that you have support to walk you through this particular process. And I am hoping, I'm going to show you this. Oh, there it is. Oh, see, you didn't even get a chance to see all that. You were looking at a blank page, I think. But anyway, here's the words that make up the compost. Here was your sprout coming up, and then here's your lotus. So that is the scoop. So I wish you great love, great wholeness, and great alchemy that is as colorful and graceful and creative as you can find your way to. And until next month, our next journey, I will sign off for now in great love and wholeness.